Well, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, my body clock. So if I fall asleep while I'm talking, please do feel free to wake me up, okay? Clicker. Yeah. I wonder what you think of. Well, let me ask first of all, who was here on Monday morning when I spoke? Oh dear. You're going to get a few repeat slides, but some new stuff too. Thank you very much, sir. So, let me ask you a question. What do you think of when you hear the words the Middle East? Just shout it out. Conflict. Yeah.
I said Iraq
War? Perfect answer. What about the people?
Wonderful.
Not human animals, as some people have described them.
Hospitable.
Yes. We do have a lot of misconceptions, or the general population in North America does, because it's only the bad news that makes it through to our screens and through to our phones. Truth is that the Middle East is... Okay, I have a problem. I'll just say change slide, I think, shall I? It is a complicated place. Middle Easterners in general are wonderful people, family-loving, very hospitable, very kind. But there are some bad players. And unfortunately, people, mostly because of illiteracy, are easily radicalized. And so we've got 700 million people from Mauritania right across North Africa into the Gulf and through to Iran and Afghanistan, mostly Muslim, and a huge variety of people. A very rich culture going back centuries and centuries, very interesting history. It was the place where Christianity was birthed. And that's what we need to respect. We're not bringing Christianity back to the Middle East. We're giving an opportunity for those Christians that have survived an opportunity to witness through media. That's what primarily we're concerned with. It's also a region full of conflicts and turmoil, of course, as you mentioned. But next, who knows about the 1040 window? It's that part of the world between 10 degrees and 40 degrees north latitude where most of the world's unreached peoples live. It was coined by a missiologist back in the 90s or 80s. And half of that window, that 1040 window, are the countries where we work today. Good, it's working. It's an area in unprecedented conflict and instability. You look at Sudan, you hardly hear about Sudan, but it's one of the worst civil wars and humanitarian situations in the world today. But does it ever get on the news? No, I don't think so. There are millions of refugees in Egypt from Sudan, and many living in very difficult circumstances. Libya, ever since 2011, has been in a state of civil war or civil conflict or division. Algeria and Morocco are still fighting over the Spanish Sahara, which is that white area just to the north of Mauritania. You've got parts of Egypt where the Muslim Brotherhood operate out in the Sinai Desert that is creating problems. Yemen is a country divided between north and south. Iraq has never fully recovered from the Iraq war. You've got three separate communities. You've got the Kurds in the north, you've got the Sunni, and you've got the Shia, supported by Iran. It's a very sad situation, and especially for Christians who've been displaced. Many have been able to get back to their homes in recent years, but still the country's difficult. And then Syria, ever since the overthrow of Assad, has been in chaos. Actually, going back to 2011, when millions of Syrians left and went to Lebanon, to Turkey, to Jordan. Some have gone back, some are still waiting to see whether the new regime that's led by a former ISIS fighter is going to be stable and safe for them to return to. And we could go on like this, and I haven't even started on Gaza and the conflict there, and the suffering of Palestinians on the West Bank. It's a very sad situation that is being highlighted, not just by Arab countries or people who are sympathetic with Palestinians, but also many Jewish people and Jewish organizations, Jews Against Genocide, Jews for Peace, both in this country, Europe, and in Israel itself. We hope and pray that this conflict will end for the sake of the 2.2 million minus 200,000 who've been injured or killed in the last 2 years. We hope that peace will come. Anyway, that's the situation in which we're working today. You've seen some of these slides already, but this is a growth of the population in the Middle East and North Africa, or MENA as we abbreviate it, very fast. It's currently around 700 million, going on to almost 1,000 million by 2050. So at the same time, you look at Europe, there's no change in the population virtually, and North America has had slow growth relative to the Middle East and North Africa that used to have a much smaller population than North America back in 1950. Adult literacy is very low in some of these countries, and it's partly because of the population growth. The school systems haven't kept up. Conflict has been a problem. There are over 12 million children in Syria and Sudan alone who've just missed out completely on schooling for the last 5 years. And then you've got the issue of children being forced into work at a very young age after perhaps just 2 or 3 years of schooling. So it leaves them vulnerable to radicalization, and it is a major problem across the region. There's a lack of women's rights and girls' rights, sadly. Female genital mutilation is widespread in Sudan and Egypt and a few other countries. And it's not a religious thing, it's a cultural thing that goes back centuries. Sadly, even Christians in Egypt practice this still. And then in many countries, a woman cannot travel without the permission of a male guardian. Saudi has allowed women to drive more recently. Voting is very often not an option for women. And then if you go to places like Afghanistan, it becomes intolerable, the situation for women under the current Taliban government. And some of you will remember the demonstrations for life, women, freedom that took place in Iran after the murder of a woman who was killed by the police for not wearing a head covering, a Kurdish woman in Iran. I mean, Masami. No, I got that wrong. Jet lag. And so you've got this issue for women right across the region that is of concern to us. Also, there's a lack of freedom for the press. These countries of the Middle East, North Africa, are among the most restricted areas for freedom of the press. while I appreciate many of the new opportunities and openings in Egypt, there have never been more journalists and media people in prison there. And in Turkey, during a recent attempted coup, over 300 media outlets were shut down. Thankfully, not Sat7. So it is very difficult, very sensitive. And in that area, to broadcast Christian message to a largely, mostly non-Christian audience is sensitive. It is one of the most religious places, certainly it's the heartlands of Islam to which we are broadcasting. And that has a whole section of challenges which I won't go into right now. The number of Christians in the Middle East used to be, 100 years ago, about 10%. Today it's down to 4.2%, making it one of the least Christian regions of the world today. Turkey has less than 0.2% of its population Christian. And when I say Christian, I mean you were born a Christian. You were Orthodox, you're Catholic, you're Protestant, you were born into a Christian family. And so we talk about believers and Christians in the same way Muslims also talk about Muslims and believers, those that practice their faith. There are over 11 million Orthodox Christians, mostly living in Egypt, where the Coptic Orthodox Church dates its founding back to St. Mark, who came from Alexandria. And it's been an amazing church. The history, it gave us the monastic orders. It was Coptic Orthodox bishops that helped to agree on the current collection of scriptures we have, which we call our New Testament and Bible. They were worked out in the early centuries by mostly the Coptic Orthodox leadership. And then during the awful persecution under the Roman Emperor Diocletian, thousands of Christians died, were killed in a very violent way. And that marked the beginning of the Coptic Orthodox calendar that they use today, till today. There's a lot of Catholics in the region, mostly in the Levant, that's Lebanon, Syria. Again, a mix of very nominal Catholics and very active, dedicated, godly Catholic people. It was interesting, Pope John Paul said back in the turn of the century when they introduced evangelization 2000, he said only 2% of Catholics are believers. The other 98% have got to be evangelized. So let's bear that in mind as we interact with other denominations. A lot of Protestants, Anglicans in the Gulf, throughout the region. Oops, it is working now. But Christians face a lot of misunderstandings about their faith, and some of these are the result of what the West has done in the region. They believe, and this is a sort of Muslim teaching, that Christians worship three gods. That doesn't get us off to a good start. They're taught that the Bible was corrupted, and it's not the same as the original, that Christ actually did not die at all on the cross. And they have all this baggage from the past, the Crusades, where Christians came in from Europe, slaughtered Muslims, and at the same time they killed Arab Christians because they looked the same, and that was okay. And Jews, they just kind of wiped everybody out if it was convenient for them. And then they also watch Western movies that portray acts of violence, immorality, unfaithfulness, godlessness, and they believe these to portray normal Christian lifestyles from the West. And then perhaps the most painful is this unconditional political support that much of the evangelical community in North America and the parts of Europe have for Israel. It's sort of like Israel can do no wrong, and very hard for Palestinian Christians, and there are many, and they're wonderful people. It's very hard for them. It puts them in this embarrassing place where they can't be trusted by Muslims or other Palestinians or Jews because of this alliance they have with the state of Israel, the political state. And somehow we've, unlike all the old prophets in the Old Testament who spoke against, the bad things that Jews did in the Old Testament, the oppression of the poor, the widow, the stranger, we don't seem to have any voices like that who are speaking up against what is happening, this apartheid society in Israel. There are voices, but they're very muted and very marginalized. So it's very hard for Palestinian Christians to explain themselves. And in Iran today, where there's an amazing revival going on, and many are coming to Christ, when the authorities arrest an Iranian believer who's converted from Islam, they don't accuse him of apostasy, because it's technically not an offense. They accuse them of joining a pro-Israeli sect and point out that there are 10 million members of Christians for Israel in North America, and so you're with them, and therefore this is some kind of treason. So these are some of the awful things, and I could go on the whole evening about the problems that Christians face in the Middle East, and certainly converts face even greater problems, but we won't. Interestingly, today, 85% of homes in the region have got satellite receivers, and they can watch all kinds of different channels without any censorship. They are in control of the remote. They choose what they're going to watch. And that's the first time, because up until the advent of satellite television in the 1990s, all the media, print and television, terrestrial television, was controlled by governments. And they used this, of course, to control what people saw, think, talked about. This has all changed, and there's this new openness where you can look at channels from all kinds of different countries and political opinions, religious opinions. So it's a very exciting change that's taken place, and we've been able to obviously use that, and it's been very key. Why is it key? It provides the only source of uncensored information still till today, because the internet is very often shut down, especially at times of crisis. It can be watched in closed homes, in closed countries. It doesn't leave a digital footprint. Nobody can come and check your internet viewing. Nobody can take your phone and see that you've been watching Christian programming. Once you turn off the TV, that's it. Nobody knows what you were watching. And of course, it's uniquely powerful for reaching the illiterate. These are the major languages of the region. I don't know if, they don't come in one by one. Okay. So we see these red countries are Arabic speaking. The dark blue is Farsi speaking, and the Turkish speaking or Turkic speaking countries are in the yellow. These are the 700 million people in the region today that we're seeking to serve, and these are the three major languages of the region that we use. And so we have today 4 channels. Arabic, which was the first channel launched in 1996, with just 2 hours a week. That was all we could produce at first, 2 hours of programming, and we called ourselves a channel. In fact, the second week after we started, on the 31st of May 1996, we didn't quite have the next 2-hour program ready to ship to the broadcast centre in London, so we repeated the first week. And it took us until 2000 before we got to a daily schedule, and it's been wonderful to see the growth. We have so many Middle Eastern staff that have learnt everything they do today on the job. They watch YouTube videos to learn. They get courses in different places. They learn from each other. We had a Lebanon director fly to Turkey just recently to give training and so on. So it's really wonderful to see Middle Easterners empowered in this way. We've got a team going to Morocco next month to help with training there. We have a Farsi channel, Sat7 Pars, that began by putting a few programs on the Arabic channel and eventually got enough capacity to have their own channel. We used to actually produce some programs in Iran. Unfortunately, that went a bit sideways, and the government decided to close down or confiscate all our equipment, and our people had to leave Iran. And we have a Turkish channel, Sat7 Turk, which I'm going to show a video of in a minute, but they're a wonderful team. Turkey has this tiny Christian community, but it's amazing what they've done with television over the last 15 years. Sat7 Kids, why do we need an Arabic channel for children? Any guesses? It's because we cover 6 time zones across the Arab world, and we were trying to put programming on when the kids in Egypt were available and after school, for example, but the kids in Morocco were still in school and the kids in Bahrain were asleep. So how do you put programming into an Arabic schedule when you've got this awful mishmash of time zones? So we eventually started a children's channel, Sat7 Kids, in 2007. And honestly, it's been so well received by Muslim parents. One of our counselors got into a taxi in Alexandria soon after the channel began, and they started chatting. He says, "Oh, you work for Sat7? Oh, Sat7 Kids, that's the only channel I can trust my children with." Because they know they won't be radicalized. They will hear good things. They see the peace the children have. They see their change in behavior, their hunger to learn, and so on. And even though they're learning Bible stories and seeing Bible cartoons, the Muslim parents are generally very accepting. Over 2 million children in Iraq, in a separate survey done by a secular company, were regular viewers of Sat7 Kids, and almost 2 million children in Saudi Arabia were allowed by their parents to watch Sat7 Kids. So it's been really very powerful. But of course, they're into digital stuff nowadays. So we've got the Middle East's first online on-demand platform, Sat7 Plus, where people can watch live the different channels streamed globally. They can get apps for their mobile, smart TVs. They can access new programs that are added daily. And they can watch on demand all kinds of back programs. But of course, the growing importance of digital media for reaching younger people, the group in the Middle East that is the hope for tomorrow, the ones that are the most open to change, they're very important. And so we are moving more and more into digital media. It's key for young people. It's inexpensive and secure in terms of the way we can communicate with people through different platforms like Signal or Viber and so on. People can just call into a program or call a counselor, and it's free. There's no cost. It's just an internet connection. Whereas before it was like $3 or $4 a minute to try and call us from anywhere in the Arab world. So this is really exciting, the way that it's developed across the Middle East and North Africa. It also enables inexpensive productions to be done by local Christians in local dialects, like Moroccan dialect, or Kabyle, which is a sort of Berber dialect of Arabic. We use these media mostly, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channels, WhatsApp, Viber, Telegram, Signal. I don't know if any of these mean anything to you, but certainly WhatsApp is very powerful in certain countries, and it's very secure. As I say, our newest channel, which actually has been on satellite, on the Turkish-owned satellite for 10 years, has been operating without any real problems, despite other media outlets being shut down. I just wanted to give you a video that gives you a taste of what they're doing at the moment and their future. Remember, this is a tiny Christian community. All the staff are Turkish. Most of them live in or around Istanbul. But it's amazing to me to see this change, because nobody could have done this 15 years ago. They've all learnt on the job, and they're doing a great job. So I'll run the video. I hope it runs. Thank you.
Sat7 Turk is more than a television channel. It's a platform where Christians can share their faith, presence, and history. We give a voice to the community and offer spiritual support to those who need most. In 2025, we are building a stronger foundation. We are refining our strategy and focusing on creative, engaging content. Our goal is to be a stable, motivated, and forward-thinking team, producing high-quality programs that resonate with our audience. And this all starts with our people.
To secure our future, we need to invest in our people. We're excited to do more cross-channel collaboration in the future. For example, this past January, Sat7 Lebanon's executive director Maroon visited our offices, where he hosted trainings and workshops for our entire production team to share his expertise. This was a great opportunity for the team to learn, to share their talents, and to grow in their craft. Providing training for producers, directors, and the technical team is a priority for us, which is why we'll be asking more Sat7 team members to come to Turkey, where we'll be able to exchange skills, ideas, and resources to support each other better. You see, collaboration and providing training helps us foster a more creative team, which ultimately will make our productions much more engaging for our viewers.
As the only Turkish Christian TV channel on Turksat, we are letting people know we are here. We connect with believers to help them learn and grow in faith, and where possible, connect them with local churches. We also create a space for those who have questions about Christianity. I was one of them. I was researching about Christianity and watching Sat7 Turk before. People trust us and reach out to us in their darkest times, requesting prayer for their families, health problems, and seeking God's help amid their challenges. Our role as the viewer support team is to listen, comfort, and speak God's hope and love into their circumstances. We are committed to walking a journey with them. We reach people where they are, and most often, this is through social media. What our viewers say helps shape our content. We pass their feedback onto our production team.
İzleyici destek ekibimizle beraber çalışmak bizim için hayati bir önem taşıyor. Bu sene 2025 yılında sadece kendi fikirlerimizi ekrana taşımak değil, izleyiciden gelen fikirleri de ekrana göstermek istiyoruz. Yani Hristiyan bakış açısını sunarken güncel olayları göstermek, insanların ekonomik, sosyoekonomik, politik ya da aile içindeki ihtiyaçları da ekrana taşımak istiyoruz ve bunun için de bir Hristiyan bakışı vermek istiyoruz. O yüzden bu gündemi tutabilmek için insanlarla ve sizlerle ortak çalışmaya ihtiyacımız var. Bizi takip edin. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Many of our viewers see Christianity as a Western religion or foreign influence. But Turkey is at the heart of Christian history. The seven churches of Revelation, the Council of Nicaea, and the early Christian settlements in Cappadocia are all part of our heritage. In 2025, we will highlight this legacy. Upcoming coverage of the Jubilee events in Nicaea will remind viewers that Christianity's roots run deep in this lens. It gives us an opportunity to speak about the Christian history here and show how the church is still alive and united today. All of our content is evolving. We are committed to creating dynamic, thought-provoking shows. Quality over quantity is our focus. So, how are we going to achieve this? Through innovative technology. Visual production is transforming our sets and storytelling. It helps us be more creative. We are not limited by physical decor or location. We are moving beyond talking head programs and traditional TV formats, and we want to use visual production technology for all sorts of programs, including music, videos, and worship programs that resonate with many of our viewers. We are using AI to work more efficiently by automating repetitive tasks. Our producers have more time to focus on creative ideas, innovation, and storytelling.
Teknoloji günümüzde iletişim kurma becerilerimizi ve kendimizi ifade etme yöntemlerimizi ciddi derecede etkiliyor. Ve son zamanlarda özellikle Türkiye'de çocuklar ve gençler sosyal medyada oldukça fazla zaman geçiriyorlar. Bunun faydaları olmakla birlikte aynı zamanda onların hayatında olumsuz etkileri de var. Çocuklar sosyal medyada fazla zaman geçirdikleri için kendi kimliklerini, görüntülerini ve değerlerini sorgulamaya başlıyorlar. Ve bununla birlikte bu sorgulama onların hayatında büyük bir baskıya neden olabiliyor. Bizler de çocuk programlarımızda özellikle çocukların Tanrı'nın gözünde çok değerli olduklarını ve çok güzel olduklarını vurgulamaya çalışıyoruz. Çünkü aslında bizler kutsal kitaptaki bu bilgiyle besleniyoruz. Çocuk programlarımızdaki içeriklerimizi yaratıcı, eğlenceli hale getirmeye çalışıyoruz ve bunu yaparken çocuklara her fırsatta onların Tanrı'nın gözünde nasıl göründüklerini anlatmaya çalışıyoruz.
Sat7 Turk is not just a media company. We are a source of hope, connection, and light for people in Turkey. Our mission is clear: to support and strengthen our Christian community, to remind Turks of their Christian heritage and keep it alive, to create innovative, engaging content using new technology guided by our viewer needs, and to invest in the next generation. Please pray for us.
I can't tell you how proud I am of all they've done in that very difficult situation, but it's really wonderful. Our mission as an organization is really twofold. It's one, to make the gospel available to everyone in the Middle East and North Africa. Make it available, not force it down their throats, but they can listen, watch, and learn and understand what the real gospel is. And especially to those who would never otherwise have the opportunity to hear it. To children, who are the least reached but most important audience and the main hope for change in tomorrow's Middle East and North Africa. There's 150 million children in the Middle East region under the age of 16. And to women who remain generally isolated from the gospel, from Christians, and whose potential for influence has always been underestimated. To the illiterate, whose only source of uncensored information is satellite TV. And to those in closed homes in closed countries who may never even have met a Christian before. And then the second mission is to encourage, support, and empower the church in its life, work, and witness for Christ. This photo, by the way, was taken at an outdoor cave church in a sort of very isolated part of Cairo, Makotam it's called, where 30,000 Christians came together for a night of prayer for their country after the 2011 uprisings. It was an amazing night. We covered it live from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's the longest live broadcast we've ever done in our lives. And all kinds of other television channels, including Al Jazeera and Egyptian television, came and begged us for the feed so they could also show what the Christians were doing in Makotam that night. They prayed for their country. They prayed for their church, their brothers and sisters, many of whom had died in the uprisings in 2011. Our viewer engagement for 2024, obviously we don't have the 25 complete figures yet. 28 million videos were viewed on YouTube in different languages. 87,000 conversations were had with viewers over secure media. And Facebook pages had 1.2 million followers. Really exciting numbers that show the interest and the change that's happening in the region. We have audience relations teams that operate in these different countries. What was surprising to me is when we started the telephone counseling center in Algeria and put up an Algerian phone number, I thought the government would take it down within, a day or two. It's been there now for 15 years and they've not cut it off, which is astonishing given all the other problems in Algeria for Christians. But we have partners in Iraq, in the Gulf, of course in Cyprus, where our international office is, Egypt, Jordan, and other places where we counsel people in different languages. Also, we have churches in the US that handle some of the Arabic and Farsi programming responses. So, very encouraging. Just a few quotes. Me and my kids always watch Sat7 Turk together. I really wish for them to grow up and be good Christians. This is a father in Turkey. I've been following your programs, as a lady from Egypt, since I was 8 years old. I feel you are my second family, teaching me about Jesus when my family couldn't because they were too busy. No words can express my love for you and your effect on my life. This is from Mitra in Iran. For years I've been watching and taking notes, and I've grown through the word. I give thanks to God for each one of you. And this is from another person in Iran. I saw your channel at a friend's house by accident, and I was engrossed in what the pastor was saying. Even though my friend wanted to change the channel, I prayed to God, and now I watch your programs on YouTube. My life has greatly changed. And this is Wafat from Egypt. I watched one of your songs for the first time while I was going through a very hard time, and I felt the voice of the Lord speaking to me through it. God bless you. Sat7 has a number of important distinctives, and these came out of our early studies and meetings with church leaders, mission leaders, right across the region before we formulated our programming policies back in the early 1990s. One, we want to be a multi-agency, interdenominational partnership. Bring together these believers from every kind of church and walk of life to work together, recognizing that each has a unique perspective to bring to a ministry like Sat7. Most of our programming is made locally by Middle East Christians. The only things that we import are cartoons for children and dub those, a few documentaries, some movies. If they're culturally appropriate, we bring those in and dub them too. But we don't usually bring in teaching programs of the typical kind of talking head type. And thirdly, we don't follow the normal model of Christian broadcasting. In other words, we have a channel and we sell our airtime to anybody who wants to buy it, because you end up with a mishmash of programs that are unhelpful. They contradict each other. There's nothing for women, there's no films, there's nothing for kids. So we wanted to control the schedule in a way that gave a voice to the Middle East church and produced a holistic range of programs that were attractive to audiences, which is the other thing that we do, is this wide range of programs with a special emphasis on the needs of children, youth, and women. And in addition to that, we have, our programming is politically and culturally sensitive. We never attack another faith or another Christian tradition, but we present the Christian message in a very sensitive but clear way. We also broadcast in the 3 main languages of the Middle East. That ensures that we reach the maximum number of people. Farsi is quite well understood by Dari speakers in Afghanistan, and we have Dari programs that are made outside of Afghanistan that are understood by Farsi speakers or Persians. And it's interesting, we're working on a project now where we're bringing together through virtual sets in Limassol, a pastor in Germany, one in Vienna, and one in Turkey. And then we put them all together in the same room with the backdrop of Kabul, Afghanistan, where they present the program. It's really an amazing project. It's not quite ready to go on air yet, but we've had some exciting programs there, pilots. The majority of our council, which is the highest authority in Sat7, are made up of Christians from and currently resident in the Middle East or North Africa. That's very important to us so that we don't become donor-driven, we don't become culturally insensitive, we don't start bringing in programs that Middle Easterners think are inappropriate. For example, we could be having a lot of funded programming about environment, but the biggest single problem for the environment in the Middle East is not, plastics or burning fossil fuels, it's war. And we have to deal with some of these issues from a very Middle East perspective. We have studios today in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Cyprus, in Turkey. We have one in Algeria, but we don't flag it up. And we have a studio in West London, which is for the Iranian believers in that country. They have 5 live shows with Iranian expatriate pastors and others, musicians, into Iran from London. We also have feeds from Afghan Christians who are making programs, live programs too, from Canada that come in. This is our Beirut studio in Lebanon. It's a wonderful building. It was gifted to us by a donor in North America, and we've really been blessed by this. This is just part of the team there. This is part of our Egypt team. Wonderfully creative people in Egypt, musicians, preachers, technical people. Our digital and social media hub is there too. We have a $21 million budget split between the 4 channels and their digital services. That's a huge amount of money for us to find every year. But when you look at the analysis of it, it costs us less than $1 per viewer per year to provide 24-hour, 365 days of Christian programming, as well as the online services. So it's cost effective, but more importantly, it's the only way that many will hear the gospel. We have a very exciting future ahead of us with new 5G connectivity of things and people. Oh, thank you. AI productions, as you heard, we're already beginning to use AI for editing and other things. But obviously, it's going to increase the use of AI in the future, hopefully in a very positive way. And the use of VR, as I mentioned, the Afghan project, for example, is one project that we're investing in using virtual reality. And we're looking to the day when quantum computing comes in and absolutely revolutionizes all of these things by having much more powerful computing systems to back them up. So we have a very different and exciting future. When I first went to the Middle East back in 1973, we didn't even have a phone in our house. There was no such thing as the internet. Nobody had a cell phone even. We relied on the post office to get our communications backwards and forwards between Lebanon and the rest of the world. We're living in a totally different universe today, and it's exciting. And what's scary and exciting is the exponential growth in all of these things. So if we think we've got all these different things going on today, it's going to be much more just in 5 to 10 years. We need to be given God wisdom in how we respond and use these new technologies. I've shared this before, but the Middle East, the people in the Middle East and North Africa are not resistant to the gospel. Actually, they're much more open than most people in Europe today. They believe in God. They believe in the concept of sin, right and wrong. They believe in a judgment day. They fear God. They don't know if they're going to make it or not to heaven. So what's the problem? The problem really seems to be that they just haven't heard the gospel. And that's what we are doing today. And the response from those that stop and listen is awesome. Fastest growing church in the world today, in per capita terms, is the church in Iran. Well over 1 million people, in a survey done by a secular company into Iran, the 1.1 million is the extrapolated number from the survey. These are people that self-admit to a complete stranger on the phone, yes, I converted to Christianity. How many more would not have admitted? I don't know. But God is doing something amazing. People have had it with Islam, really. In Iran, Saudi, Turkey, they see the hypocrisy, the way religion is used to control and manipulate them, and they reject it. In Turkey, people have become deists. They don't want to be atheists or Christian, but they don't want to be Muslims. But they still believe in God. In Iran, they're turning to ancient religions like Zoroastrianism. They're becoming members of Baha'i faith. They're becoming atheists. Iran has the highest drug addiction problem in the world per capita. And many are also turning to Christ. So this is awesome. Do engage with us. We need your prayers. I think that's so important for our teams. They're working in a spiritually dark and difficult area. We need funding. We hope to do much more in digital media, in addition to the satellite broadcasts, which we have to keep up for at least another decade or so for the sake of those that will never use digital media. So do pray for this ministry and their people and these people you've seen on the video. We have these little cards that you could pick up from the desk outside or the table outside. If you know people from Iran or Turkey or an Arab country, you could give them this. They just have to click on the QR code and it takes them to Sat7 Plus, where they can stream live programs or take stuff on demand. I've got a few copies of my book that does tell the story of Sat7, and it has some wonderful stories of believers, some of whom have paid the ultimate price for their faith, including a bishop, a Catholic bishop in Turkey who was shot dead by his driver, who was very supportive and excited about what we were doing. There's all kinds of stories in there from Iran, from Turkey, from North Africa, and the story of Sat7, how it began with just 2 hours a week, repeating on the second week, and growing to 4 24-hour channels. So please do pick up a copy of that if you would like one. You can click on this if you'd like more to go to the Sat7 USA website. And we'll have a time of questions, if that's okay. I don't know what time you want to go home, but I'm open to stay as long as people have questions. Thank you. Did I answer all your questions, or did I? Okay. Or did I stun you into silence?
Well, the time is now for the Q&A section. Thank you so much, Dr. Ascott, for this presentation of SAT7. I have a question about, I think this may have been in your book or on one of the websites, a story about Egyptian youth being frustrated because of high unemployment, and so you were able to kind of quickly work on maybe a call-in program of some kind for them, and it seemed to me that there was a quick pivot from the time when the needs or possibilities for communication became known, and there was a sort of a call-in program. Am I remembering this correctly? Your face is looking like maybe I'm not expressing myself clearly.
We do try to be responsive, and we have a project called YES, which is Youth Enabling Society, where we mobilize young people to help. But we did have a project too of micro-financing or micro-enterprise development. In other words, with so many people unemployed across the region, we had a competition where people could send in a proposal for a project that would cost no more than $100, could be operated by one person with a maximum of 1 week's training, and you could generate from that enough money to support yourself and possibly part of your family. So, for example, you might set up a water delivery service, or you might set up, I don't know what, but we had hundreds of people sending in suggestions of ways in which you could develop your own little micro-enterprise. And we then made programs about each one and broadcast it, which we hope really help people to develop. We have a lot of programs that deal with social issues. We had one drama which was shot actually in Palestine by a very nice, wonderful kind of production group there. And it was called The House of Abu Yusuf. It was a sort of soap opera drama about women especially, and children, and their rights and their challenges. And just to give you an illustration of how the impact of this, we had this phone call from a doctor in Egypt, an educated person. He said, "You've ruined my life, you've ruined my marriage." I said, "Oh, sorry, my wife, she went to the police station to complain that I beat her." I mean, it's this kind of change where you empower women to know their rights and to see their status in the eyes of God. And it has a real impact on people. So we do have this holistic programming, and as was mentioned, we have on-air schooling called My School, trying to provide the basics of Arabic and some foreign languages and some mathematics and science and other things using school curriculum, initially from Syria, because there were so many Syrian children that were out of school after 2011. We actually, for some time, had a separate channel called SAT7 Academy that just produced or broadcast educational content for children with Christian stories and values, of course, but not sort of very aggressive evangelistic content. And we actually shut that down and moved some of the programming into the SAT7 Kids, and all of it is available online through the SAT7 Plus platform. But it's helping not only the children, but the illiterate mothers of the children that sit and watch with them. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, where is, oh, there we go. Where is your money presently coming from in general? And where do you expect it to come from 10 years from now?
It's an interesting question. I met with a large foundation when we were just starting up, and we presented our business plan here. It was in Chattanooga. I won't give you the name of the foundation. They'd been supporting our research phase, and they looked at the business plan over a 2-day discussion and said, "We can't support this." it's not self-sustainable. If you're not going to sell your airtime or do on-air fundraising from your audience, how are you going to keep this thing going? And they just backed away. But we didn't feel we could do these things. And so we would rather fail than compromise on these 2 points. And God has been amazingly faithful. You know, there were days in the middle of August when it's a bad time, people don't send gifts in the summer, it seems. We couldn't pay the satellite time and we couldn't pay salaries. And then suddenly we get this gift of £250,000 from a businessman in England who just sold his company and sent it all. And God has been incredibly faithful over the years. Actually, since I stepped down as CEO 6 years ago, the financial situation has improved because I was always starting new projects. But we thank God for that. We are looking to expand our budget considerably over the next few years with this new digital media, at least until we can perhaps reduce the number of satellite hours. We do need to ramp up because the opportunity and the need and the potential response is so great. But to answer the question, all the money comes from individuals or foundations or trusts. About 65% of it comes from North America, a big chunk from Europe, about 15%, I'm just guessing, I can't remember the exact numbers, from the UK, and some from China, Hong Kong and Singapore, where we've somehow attracted a few major donors to contribute occasionally to us. One Chinese donor has just sent us, or is in the process of sending us, a whole solar panel outfit to equip our Lebanon office, because we've never been connected to the electric grid. We have a series of generators. We run the whole thing 24/7 on generators. So this is going to be enormous to have solar power panels. Yeah, God has provided in amazing ways. I wish I had time to tell you some of the amazing stories.
So with expanding into the digital arena and that potentially making things less expensive, are there plans to expand into other languages or other nations, like maybe Indonesia?
No, we had a big struggle, should we go into Pakistan? And we were working with the church in Pakistan and different people, and they wanted to start a Urdu channel for Pakistan. And we said, look, no, it's a different broadcast era, using different satellites, it's a different culture. We know this, we've got 700 million people, it's enough for us. But what we'll do with you, we could give you any of our programs to dub, if they're appropriate, they want them. We're going to give you all our policies for programming, for personnel. We're going to give you all the support that you need to do this job. And so PAC 7 today is broadcasting 24 hours a day in Urdu, and with digital media, they're doing an amazing job at training Pakistanis. I'm mentoring some of their staff occasionally by Zoom. So we support them, but we did get invited into Indonesia actually about 15 years ago, and also into China or Hong Kong to do something, but we said no, we can't, we shouldn't. This is a very needy part of the world. We're going to keep to this. We'll never meet all the needs, but here's, help yourself to all this stuff that we've developed over the last 20, 30 years. Long answer to that question, sorry. Well, yes.
You mentioned that it spans like 6 time zones where you cover, and so I was just wondering if you repeated some of the programs so that each like country would be able to see some similar programming, or how you kind of came up with the schedule, I guess, for each day?
We do repeat programming in the Arabic schedule and the kids' schedule. In fact, all the schedules have got repeats. Some would be in the middle of the night for the people in Bahrain, but at a good time in Morocco and so on. The real challenge for us that I mentioned there was children's programming, because to meet their needs, you'd have to displace all the adult program and have these repeats of children's programming for at least half the schedule, which would rather kill the whole operation. But it's a good question. I mean, we broadcast some stuff at midnight, and I think in Egypt, but of course that's a good time for people in Morocco and so on, so it works well.
You know, as we see the staff and the programmers, the programs being made, it's easy to connect with the presenters emotionally and say, wow, what an amazing people. And I'm wondering if there's a place for somebody to come alongside, a group to come alongside with their own funding and facilitate broadcasts or programming, not necessarily broadcasts, but material from the Middle East and North Africa back to the West. So we get to know people well. And I think even among those of us here, you know, we want to know more on a personal level. And then along with that, there's quite a large growth in interest in Eastern Orthodoxy here in North America. There's quite a few people converting to Eastern Orthodoxy from various streams of Protestantism and even from Catholicism. And it would be another whole service from Christians to the West. And again, not to impinge on the current work of Sat 7, but you have such breadth and depth in the area that it would be a huge service, and it would give higher visibility, which hopefully would create more funding and such for the main work as well.
Are you talking about an English language service?
Yes, and that kind of triggers another question, but or another possibility in terms of translation or dubbing and AI version, you know, facilitation of that. But yeah, in the simplest form, say English speakers, like were in the Turkish clips there that you had, if they, or not they themselves, I know they're overloaded, but if their associates could really instruct us in the West so that we get the true picture of Middle East and North Africa. As Rita and you say, you know, there is a different story of the region, but we don't know it.
Dennis, is that something you'd like to address? I mean, anyone can watch the programs in Arabic, Turkish or Farsi because they're streamed globally, and they have what's called the harami dish, the thief's dish. Somebody's illegally taking down our channels in the Middle East and then feeding them out to subscribers of their illegal services in North America and other parts of the world. We're happy, we're not complaining, we're not. If they want to do that, that's great. But
I think what I can add to that question is that here in the West, there's just so many opportunities to encounter the gospel, whereas in the Middle East and the areas that we broadcast to, it's very, very limited. And so Sat 7 as a ministry is focusing its resources on the region and coming along this church there, because we really want to empower the church and allow the church to make its claim to a biblical Christianity. So that our resources are poured into that region rather than putting resources to focus back on the Western world.
Sure. And I don't mean at all to touch the present or future Sat 7 resources. But the ethos of Sat 7 is super important to believers here. So if there was a whole other set of resources that facilitated that, not touching what's going into the current.
That's maybe something that can be looked at in the future. I don't think it's been looked at yet.
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
We even started back in 2015, I think, a channel called Sat7 North America, and we rented satellite time, and we were broadcasting all our programs in Arabic into the US for the sake of the many Arabic-speaking people in North America. But we found, instead of it sort of stimulating them to pray for the people in the Middle East, they started asking for programs for their children who have special needs growing up in American culture, or they wanted their church service in Chicago to be on the channel. And I said, no, this is not what we signed up for at all. Yeah. And we stopped the channel.
Yeah. Well, you remember the story from chapel yesterday, Terry walking down the street in Cairo, that dusty street, where he had that epiphany moment 30 years ago. Well, I was at a National Religious Broadcasters, and there's a ministry that helps ministries, churches raise funds. So I was invited to a special dinner they had. So there's about 80 ministry leaders, CEOs, in this meeting. And to start the meeting, we all stood up and said who we were and who we were with. So I stood up, Dennis Weens, I'm with Sat7, and went to the next person. So we had our meal, and then the waiters cleared, and they did their presentation. The waiters came back in, and they pointed to me and said, Sat7, we all know Sat7. We all grew up on Sat7 as kids and youth in the Middle East. And here, 80 ministry leaders at these tables had never heard of Sat7, and their waiters are Egyptian. There's 400 Egyptians that work in that hotel, the Opryland Grand Hotel. And they're thanking me for this ministry that the CEOs had never heard of. So you think of what Terry did, his obedience walking down that street. He had no idea what he was starting 30 years ago. But it's gone global, and it's amazing how many people know of Sat7, grew up on Sat7, and the next day I was at another table with Ed Cannon, the CEO of Far Eastern Broadcasting, and a waiter came up and wanted to shake my hand. He had grown up on Sat7, but he had never met anybody from Sat7. So Terry's very humble, but what he created 30 years ago has global impact now. So thank you, Terry, for all your work over the years. So it's good to be a part of Sat7 USA and to be able to represent the church in the West and the amazing things that are happening in the Middle East. Any more questions? I think we've maybe exhausted them. So, got one back here.
We can pray, we can give, but what else can we do? We can pray, we can give, but what else can we do? What can we do practically?
I think practically we're still a bit of a secret. People don't know what Sat7 is. They think it's some kind of scholastic aptitude test, number 7. So if you can do anything to sort of make people more aware of the opportunity that we're enjoying at the moment, this would be great. I don't know how you do that. I'm not a North American, in case you didn't notice my accent. Yeah. What else, Dennis, would you suggest? Where is Dennis?
I was hoping you'd ask. One thing you can do is get on our website, sat7usa.org. There's the code. And read some of the stories. We're putting out stories on Facebook, Instagram. We have all kinds of videos on the Sat7 USA YouTube channel. You go to the homepage, you go to the bottom on the left, the icons are there for the social media. Be an advocate for what the church is in the Middle East and help tell their story. And you can do that by sharing these stories that we're putting out. Everything on Sat7 social media has gone through security. You can repost it, you can share it. Names have been changed, so you don't have to worry if it's on Sat7 social media. It's good to share. Be a voice and an advocate in that way for the church, your brothers and sisters in the Middle East and North Africa. Tell their stories. Churches haven't heard about us. If you could all get on your social media and post that you listen to this amazing ministry from the Middle East on your social media and tag, it's amazing the algorithms pick it up and broadcast it, and that's a big way that you can help us get the story out there. We partner with Barnabas Foundation. There's all kinds of incredible tax strategies that you can actually have appreciated stocks. You can actually give stocks and eliminate capital gains and actually give more by giving less. And there's so many strategies. So
These are students. They don't even pay
yes,
their own fees.
because they all know about this. They need to learn about it. There's so many ways people can get involved in the local church and funding ministries. And the church, by and large, doesn't look at a lot of these strategies. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, but I think it starts with reading the stories and sharing those on your own social media, and talk to your church and have them invite us to come speak.
Yeah, it's amazing the lack of information about the Middle East and the Christians. I mean, do we know there are Christian Palestinians in Gaza City today who are choosing to stay because they don't feel they should or could leave while this, well, some would call it a genocide, is going on around them? Do we know there are Christians on the West Bank who are losing their homes, being displaced? It's very tough when you're not even, when people know nothing about you and they're not praying for you, they're not supporting you in any way. So some Christians in the region, it was the same in Iraq. There were 1.2 million Christians in Iraq. Today there's less than 150,000. They had to leave because of all the pressures from ISIS, from other groups. But nobody knows about this, and nobody's praying for these people, nobody's advocating for them or helping them. So be aware. That's how you can help. And maybe buy my book, because that'll really clue you in. And if you can't afford it, I'm going to give it to you. Because if you promise to read it, I will give it to you for free, because I really want people to know more about the Christians of the Middle East. Thank you.
I've actually got a question or two myself. So I'm just sitting here waiting my turn. But this may resonate with a lot of you in here. I find myself once again, the older I get, this happens more and more, finding myself in this place where God opens my eyes to how little I know. And that happened again tonight as I realized how little I know about the Middle East. And so many questions, but one in particular, you mentioned a couple of times now, this curious place. I mean, curious is a very tame word for it, where Palestinian Christians are caught in this horrible position, really, of not being trusted by their own countrymen for the perception that the Bible teaches that there's this unconditional support of Israel, and yet they're not trusted by people outside for their own ethnicity. How do you minister to them? I never thought of this before.
In Gaza, I'm not sure, because it's a very small Christian community, but in the West Bank, we do have some very well-educated Christian leadership. We have a Bible college in Bethlehem called Bethlehem Bible College. They even have a media department, and they supply us with programs too. But they're doing their best to support and encourage their people. But they still feel let down by the West, by the church in the West. They feel they've just been thrown to the wolves, as it were. Pray for them.
Yeah. Truly people without a nation, really. Have more, but we'll talk later.
Yeah. Well, I think you're allowed to go home soon. Is there a time when we're supposed to finish? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you. Thank you.